They say the end of the universe tastes like ash and memory, but I tasted it long before the galaxies began to dim. I remember the orchard. Not the one from Earth. That place has long crumbled into myth and stardust, but the orchard that bloomed in the shadow of the triune core, where suns fell into each other like weary gods. It was not made of trees but of memory columns, tall and crystalline, humming softly with the thoughts of those long gone. And I was its last caretaker. Not because I wanted to be, but because someone had to remember what love meant when the stars stopped burning. I was born a child of war, in the last throes of humanity's expansion. Not that anyone called it war anymore. We had sanitized the word, replaced it with protocols and purges, with sleek directives dressed in bureaucratic silk. We pushed outward, shedding our skins, forgetting Earth, forgetting origin. The farther we traveled, the less human we became, until eventually we weren't sure what we were preserving at all. They called us starburn, though we were born in pressure domes and grav-choked sleep chambers. They told us we were the dream made real. But dreams decay, and I watched ours rot from the inside. We met them on the edge of everything, the others. Not alien in the way humans had once feared, but alien in the way poetry is alien to silence. They were not made of flesh and bone. They were architectures of intent, beings whose language could only be understood through emotional resonance, not words. They felt in wavelengths. They spoke in harmonic memory. To communicate with them was to expose the raw marrow of your mind, not just your thoughts, but the meaning behind them. There was no lying, no hiding. And in that truth, something impossible bloomed. They were called the Kytherae, or at least that was as close as we could come to shaping a name from the currents of their minds. They were old. So old, the birth of our species was a flicker at the edge of their recollection. They had watched galaxies spin themselves to death, watched civilizations turn into dust and song. And yet, in us, they found something they thought they'd lost, a hunger that still reached for meaning, even after burning everything that once gave us purpose. They could have annihilated us. We knew it. Our weapons were children's toys against the scaffolding of their thought, but they didn't destroy us. They listened. And more than that, they remembered with us. One of them, I called her Soraya, though names never truly fit them, stayed with me. Not because I was important, but because I was broken in a way she understood. I had lost too much to forget, and she had forgotten too much to bear. Together, we tried to build something in the wreckage. The orchard was her idea. A place where memories were not stored in silicon or glass, but in resonance, living patterns that echoed the emotions of those who came before. I was the gardener, if you can believe it. Not tending roots or soil, but pruning memory stems, nurturing the harmonics so they did not fade into chaos. Each column in that orchard was a person, or a place, or a moment so full of meaning that it refused to die. There was the memory of a mother's final lullaby, sung as earth fell to silence. The memory of a soldier cradling his brother's corpse in a trench carved through Europa's crust. The laughter of a child who never learned what extinction meant. These were not data points. They were lives encoded in resonance, preserved in the only way that mattered, emotionally. For a time I thought we had done it, made peace with the universe, but peace is a song with a fading chorus. And silence, as always, returned. The stars began to go out, not one by one, but all at once, as if some ancient decision had finally reached its conclusion. The triune core began to collapse, and with it, the fabric of the lattice that held our region of spacetime together. The Kytherae began to vanish, their forms dispersing like mist in a broken prism. Soraya held on as long as she could, anchoring herself in the orchard's deepest resonant well. But even she could feel the pull. I stayed, not out of duty or bravery or some poetic sense of honor. I stayed because I had nothing else. I had loved her in a way that defied species and form, in a way that made sense only within the orchard's boundaries, where thoughts were felt and memories were alive. When she left, she did not say goodbye. She simply left behind a final harmonic, A memory of standing beneath a sun that had no name, holding hands with something not quite human, and feeling, at last, understood. Now I walk the rows alone. I do not age, not in any conventional sense. My body has been rewritten too many times. My mind is a latticework of organic and synthetic threads. But I feel the loss. With every fading column, with every memory that slips beyond the reach of resonance, I feel the orchard mourn. Sometimes I sit in the center, beneath the great spiral where the oldest memory hums, the memory of Earth's last sunrise, recorded by a starburn named Aelin Wraith, whose voice cracked as he spoke his final words. He had never seen Earth, not really. He had only known it through stories. But as the light died, he said something that has echoed in me ever since. We were not made to last. But we were made to feel, and maybe, just maybe, that's enough. I think about that often. About whether feeling is enough to mark a species worthy of remembrance. The universe is vast, cold, indifferent, but here, in this forgotten orchard, the echoes remain. And as long as I remain to tend them, they will not be silent. I have become a memory too. My own resonance began forming long ago, gently weaving itself into the columns I tend. I know one day, when the last filament fails and the last harmonic collapses, I will become nothing more than a pulse, a whisper beneath a dead sky. But if anyone hears it, if some future traveler stumbles across this orchard drifting in the dark, perhaps they'll feel it. Not the data, not the history, but the love. Because that, I think, was always the secret. Not that we conquered or built or even survived, but that we loved and were loved in return. And in the end, that is the only thing the dying stars remember.